In the heart of America's Great Plains lies Nebraska, a state most known for endless cornfields and vast prairies. But beneath this seemingly simple landscape hide some of the continent's most perplexing ancient mysteries. Tonight, we journey through 8 extraordinary mysteries that have puzzled archaeologists, geologists, and historians for generations. Each mystery tells a story of ancient peoples, vanished cultures, and natural phenomena that challenge our understanding of the past. So settle in as we uncover the hidden history of Nebraska, where every mystery reveals new questions about the people who walked these plains long before recorded history began. Chapter 1. Devil's Corkscrews, the Spiral Enigma. Deep in the agate fossil beds of western Nebraska, strange formations twist through layers of ancient sandstone like giant stone corkscrews. These perfectly spiral structures, some reaching 15 ft in length, once represented one of paleontology's most baffling puzzles. When first discovered in the late 1800s, they defied every attempt at classification and understanding. The formations appeared too perfect, too purposeful to be random geological accidents. Early observers noted their remarkable consistency, each spiral maintaining precise mathematical proportions as it descended through the rock layers. The corkscrews showed no variation in their spiral pattern, no deviation from their downward trajectory, creating an almost mechanical precision that seemed impossible in nature. Initial theories ranged from the practical to the fantastical. Some suggested they were fossilized root systems of enormous ancient plants, perhaps twisted by geological forces over millions of years. Others proposed they were the remnants of underground rivers that had carved these precise channels through flowing water. The most exotic theories imagined them as the fossilized burrows of unknown creatures, or even as mysterious geological formations with no earthly equivalent. What made these formations truly puzzling was their geological context. The agate fossil beds preserve remnants of an ancient ecosystem that existed roughly 20 million years ago during the Miocene epoch. This was a time when Nebraska's climate was far different from today, supporting vast grasslands populated by bizarre mammals unlike anything alive today. Yet none of the known creatures from this period seemed capable of creating such elaborate underground structures. The breakthrough came through careful examination of the spiral walls themselves. Researchers discovered tiny scratch marks and wear patterns that could only have been made by claws repeatedly scraping against stone. These marks followed the spiral pattern exactly, suggesting that whatever created these formations had moved in precise circular motions while digging downward through the sediment. Further investigation revealed the true architects of these mysterious spirals. They were the work of Paleocasta, an ancient beaver species that lived in Nebraska's prehistoric grasslands. Unlike modern beavers that build dams and lodges near water, these extinct relatives were adapted for life on dry land. They constructed elaborate underground burrow systems to escape the harsh climate and predators of their era. The genius of Paleocasta's engineering becomes clear when examining the spiral design. By digging in a corkscrew pattern rather than straight down, these ancient beavers created burrows that were both structurally sound and efficiently ventilated. The spiral shape prevented cave-ins while allowing fresh air to circulate throughout the underground chambers. At the bottom of each spiral, the beavers excavated living spaces and nursery chambers for their young. What remains remarkable about these formations is their preservation. The burrows were filled with sediment over millions of years, creating perfect casts of the original excavations. When the surrounding rock eroded away, these filled burrows remained as towering spires and deep channels, preserving the exact shape of the ancient beavers' construction work. The Devil's Corkscrews represent more than just an interesting fossil formation. They demonstrate the incredible engineering capabilities of ancient mammals and show how life finds ways to adapt to challenging environments. These 20-million-year-old burrows reveal complex behaviors and social structures in creatures that lived long before humans existed. Today, visitors to the agate fossil beds can see these remarkable formations scattered across the landscape. Each one is a testament to the ingenuity of Nebraska's ancient inhabitants. The mystery of their origin may be solved, but their perfect spiral forms continue to inspire wonder at the incredible diversity of life that once flourished on the Great Plains. They stand as monuments to adaptation, survival, and the endless creativity of evolution in action. Chapter 2. King Kaida Mounds, Celestial Buffalo in Earth. Near Hastings, Nebraska, massive earthworks rise from the prairie in the unmistakable shape of a buffalo. These aren't natural hills or random accumulations of soil, but carefully constructed monuments built by the Hopewell people over 1,000 years ago. The King Kaida Mounds represent one of the most impressive examples of effigy earthworks in North America, combining artistic vision with astronomical precision in ways that continue to puzzle researchers today. The main effigy stretches nearly 200 feet from head to tail, with individual mounds reaching heights of 8 feet above the surrounding prairie. From ground level, the buffalo shape isn't immediately obvious, but from elevated positions or aerial views, the animal form becomes unmistakable. The builders created this massive figure using millions of basket loads of earth, transported and shaped by hand over what must have been many seasons of dedicated labor. What makes the King Kaida Mounds truly mysterious isn't just their impressive size, but their precise astronomical alignments. The buffalo's head points toward the spot on the horizon where certain stars rise during specific times of the year. These alignments aren't random coincidences, but appear to mark important seasonal events in the agricultural and ceremonial calendar of the Hopewell people. The Hopewell culture flourished across much of eastern North America between 100 BC and 400 AD. Known for their elaborate burial mounds, extensive trade networks, and sophisticated understanding of astronomy. In Nebraska, they established several major earthwork complexes, but none as visually striking as the buffalo effigy near Hastings. The choice to create an animal form rather than the geometric shapes more common in Hopewell sites suggests something special about this location or its purpose. Archaeological evidence from the site reveals layers of human activity spanning several centuries. Fragments of pottery, stone tools, and remnants of hearths indicate that people gathered here regularly, likely for ceremonial purposes tied to the astronomical alignments built into the earthwork's design. The buffalo shape itself may have held deep spiritual significance, representing abundance, survival, and the connection between earthly and celestial realms. The construction of the King Kaida Mounds required detailed planning and sophisticated engineering knowledge. The builders had to calculate precise angles and measurements to create recognizable animal proportions on such a massive scale. They also needed to understand the movements of stars and seasonal changes well enough to incorporate accurate astronomical alignments into their design. Soil analysis from the mounds reveals that the earth was transported from multiple locations around the site. Different types of clay and sand were layered strategically, suggesting the builders understood soil composition and drainage properties. This knowledge was essential for creating structures that would remain stable over centuries of weathering and seasonal freeze-thaw cycles. The mystery deepens when considering the broader context of effigy mounds across North America. While many cultures built earthworks, the specific tradition of creating large-scale animal effigies appears in relatively few locations. The King Kaida Mounds represent the westernmost example of this tradition, raising questions about cultural connections and the spread of ideas across vast distances. Modern attempts to understand the site's purpose must consider multiple possibilities. The buffalo effigy could have served as a calendar for tracking seasonal changes, a ceremonial center for important rituals, or a territorial marker visible from great distances across the flat prairie landscape. Perhaps it fulfilled all these functions simultaneously, serving as a multi-purpose monument that anchored the spiritual and practical lives of its builders. The precision required to create such alignments suggests the Hopewell people possessed detailed astronomical knowledge passed down through generations. They understood not only the daily movement of the sun, but also the yearly patterns of stars and planets. This knowledge was essential for timing agricultural activities, planning ceremonies, and maintaining the complex social structures that characterized Hopewell society. Today, the King Kaida Mounds stand as testament to the intellectual achievements of Nebraska's ancient inhabitants. Their combination of artistic vision, engineering skill, and astronomical precision creates a mystery that continues to reward careful study while revealing new questions about the people who transformed the prairie landscape into a canvas for their most important ideas. Chapter 3. Ponka Fort, the Vanished Village. Along the Missouri River in northeastern Nebraska, archaeological investigations have revealed the remains of Nanza, once the most important village of the Ponka people. This wasn't a simple collection of temporary shelters, but a substantial fortified settlement that housed hundreds of residents for several centuries. The site presents a fascinating puzzle about how such a complex community could thrive in this location and then disappear so completely from the landscape. The Ponka Fort covered over 40 acres at its peak, surrounded by defensive earthworks that included deep ditches and wooden palisade walls. Within this protected area stood dozens of earth lodges, semi-subterranean structures that provided excellent insulation against the harsh plains climate. These weren't crude dugouts, but engineered buildings with sophisticated ventilation systems, storage areas, and carefully planned interior spaces for extended family groups. Archaeological evidence reveals a highly organized community with specialized activity areas throughout the village. Certain sections were dedicated to food processing, where residents dried corn, processed buffalo meat, and prepared other provisions for winter storage. Other areas served as workshops where skilled craftspeople created tools, pottery, and trade goods that connected the Ponka to distant communities across North America. The defensive features of Nanza indicate this was more than just a peaceful farming village. The earthworks and palisades required enormous labor investments and suggest the residents faced real threats that made such fortifications necessary. These defenses were rebuilt and expanded multiple times, showing that the village adapted to changing security needs over its centuries of occupation. What makes the site particularly intriguing is evidence of the Ponka people's agricultural innovations. They developed farming techniques specifically adapted to the Missouri River Valley's unique conditions, including flood-resistant storage methods and crop varieties selected for local growing conditions. Archaeological remains show they cultivated corn, beans, squash, and sunflowers, creating a diverse agricultural base that supported their large population. The village's location wasn't chosen randomly, but reflected deep understanding of the river's behavior and the surrounding environment. Nanza sat on elevated ground that provided protection from floods, while remaining close enough to fertile bottomlands for farming. The site also offered excellent defensive advantages, with clear views of approaching travelers or potential enemies from multiple directions. Trade goods found throughout the site reveal the extensive connections maintained by Nanza's residents. Shells from the Gulf of Mexico, copper from the Great Lakes region, and stone materials from distant quarries show that the Ponka participated in continent-spanning trade networks. These connections brought new technologies, ideas, and materials that helped the village prosper for generations. The mystery deepens when examining evidence of the village's abandonment. Unlike many archaeological sites that show gradual decline or destruction by warfare, Nanza appears to have been deliberately abandoned by its residents. They removed valuable items, sealed storage pits, and left the site in an organized manner that suggests planned relocation rather than forced departure. Historical records provide some clues about this abandonment, indicating that the Ponka people faced increasing pressure from other tribes moving into the region during the 1700s. Climate changes affecting agricultural productivity may have also influenced their decision to seek new territories. The village's final occupation appears to coincide with the arrival of European diseases and trade goods that disrupted traditional ways of life across the plains. The construction techniques revealed at Nanza demonstrate remarkable engineering knowledge adapted to local conditions. The earth lodges featured sophisticated drainage systems that prevented moisture problems, while their semi-subterranean design provided natural climate control. Support posts were positioned to maximize interior space while maintaining structural integrity, showing advanced understanding of building principles. Storage facilities throughout the village included both above-ground and underground caches, designed to preserve food supplies through harsh winters. These storage systems were carefully sealed and protected, allowing residents to maintain food security even during difficult seasons. The sophistication of these preservation techniques enabled Nanza to support a much larger population than might have been possible with simpler storage methods. Today, most traces of this once thriving community lie buried beneath agricultural fields, protected from further damage, but hidden from casual observation. The site continues to yield information about Ponka engineering, agriculture, and social organization, while raising new questions about the complex factors that led to the abandonment of such a successful settlement. Nanza represents both the achievements and the vulnerabilities of Plains village life in the centuries before European contact. Chapter 4. Ash Hollow Cave, the Eternal Shelter. Hidden within the bluffs of Ash Hollow State Historical Park lies a cave that has sheltered human beings for over 15 centuries. This limestone cavern, carved by ancient waters and enlarged by countless generations of inhabitants, preserves one of the most complete records of human occupation on the Great Plains. What makes this site truly remarkable isn't just its long history of use, but the mystery of how so many different cultures found and utilized the same hidden refuge across vast spans of time. The cave's strategic location explains much of its appeal to ancient peoples. Positioned high in the bluffs overlooking the North Platte River Valley, it offers commanding views of the surrounding landscape while remaining concealed from casual observation. The entrance faces southeast, providing natural protection from prevailing winds while capturing morning sunlight for warmth. Freshwater springs emerge from the limestone nearby, ensuring a reliable water source even during dry seasons. Archaeological excavations within the cave have revealed distinct layers of occupation, each representing different groups who made this shelter their temporary or seasonal home. The deepest layers contain artifacts from the earliest known inhabitants, people who lived here around 500 AD. These ancient occupants left behind carefully crafted stone tools, bone implements, and the remains of hearths built in the same locations, generation after generation. The mystery begins with understanding how these different groups discovered the cave across such long periods. The entrance is visible from the valley floor and requires knowledge of specific trails through the bluffs to reach. This suggests either continuous occupation by related groups or the existence of information networks that pass knowledge about valuable shelter sites between different cultures over centuries. Each occupational layer tells a different story about how people adapted the cave to their needs. Early inhabitants built simple fire hearths near the entrance where smoke could escape easily while providing maximum warmth for the cave's interior. Later groups expanded these fire areas and created more elaborate cooking facilities, including stone-lined roasting pits for processing large amounts of meat and plant foods. The cave's role as a shelter appears to have varied with different groups and changing circumstances. Some occupations show evidence of extended stays with substantial accumulations of artifacts and food remains, suggesting seasonal camps that lasted for months. Other layers indicate brief visits, perhaps by traveling groups seeking temporary refuge during storms or while moving between distant territories. Tool assemblages from different periods reveal changing technologies and adaptations to local resources. Earlier inhabitants relied heavily on locally available stone materials, creating tools from chert and quartzite found in nearby gravel deposits. Later occupants show evidence of trade connections with tools made from materials that originated hundreds of miles away, indicating participation in broader economic networks. Food remains preserved in the cave's dry conditions, provide detailed information about ancient diets and seasonal activities. Bone fragments reveal hunting patterns focused on deer, elk, and smaller game animals that inhabited the river valley. Plant remains include seeds from prairie grasses, wild fruits, and other resources gathered from the surrounding ecosystem during different seasons. The cave's consistent use across 15 centuries raises questions about territorial boundaries and resource sharing among different groups. In many regions, prime shelter sites like this cave would have been fiercely defended or controlled by dominant groups. The evidence from Ash Hollow suggests either peaceful succession of different inhabitants or the existence of protocols that allowed multiple groups to use the site without conflict. Storage features within the cave indicate sophisticated planning for extended occupations. Stone-lined caches built into the cave floor provided secure storage for tools, food supplies, and other valuable items. Some of these storage pits show evidence of repeated use by different groups, suggesting either continuous occupation by related peoples or recognition of established storage rights by successive inhabitants. The mystery of the cave's abandonment around 1000 AD coincides with broader changes occurring across the Great Plains. This period saw the emergence of larger, more permanent settlements in river valleys, as well as the adoption of agriculture by many plains groups. The shift away from cave shelters like Ash Hollow may reflect these changing settlement patterns and economic strategies. Modern analysis of the cave's deposits continues to reveal new information about its ancient inhabitants and their adaptations to plains environments. Each layer preserves evidence of human ingenuity and survival strategies, while raising new questions about the social mechanisms that allowed such a valuable resource to remain available to different groups across such an extended period of time. Chapter 5. Humphrey Site, Oasis in the Sand Hills. Deep in Nebraska's Sand Hills region, where rolling dunes of sand create one of North America's largest grassland ecosystems, archaeologists discovered evidence of an ancient Apache village that challenges everything we thought we knew about survival in this seemingly hostile environment. The Humphrey site reveals not just temporary camps or hunting expeditions, but a permanent settlement, complete with agriculture, trade connections, and sophisticated adaptation to one of the plains' most challenging landscapes. The sand hills present formidable obstacles to permanent settlement. The sandy soils drain quickly, making reliable water sources scarce. Winds constantly reshape the landscape, burying or exposing features with each storm. The region supports vast grasslands ideal for grazing animals, but the combination of poor soil and harsh climate makes traditional farming extremely difficult. Yet the Apache people who lived at the Humphrey site not only survived here but created a thriving community. Archaeological evidence reveals that these ancient inhabitants developed remarkable innovations for living in sandy terrain. They constructed semi-subterranean lodges that took advantage of the sand's insulating properties while protecting residents from constant winds. These structures were carefully positioned in natural depressions or behind sand ridges that provided additional shelter from the elements. The most surprising discovery at the site was evidence of successful agriculture in this unlikely location. Corn kernels, beans and squash, remains found in storage pits, prove that the inhabitants grew crops, despite the challenging conditions. This required sophisticated understanding of soil management, water conservation, and crop selection specifically adapted to sandy soils and irregular rainfall patterns. Water management systems at the site demonstrate engineering solutions specifically designed for the sandhills environment. The Apache constructed shallow wells and systems to capture and store groundwater that lay relatively close to the surface in certain areas. They also created drainage systems that directed seasonal runoff toward their agricultural areas, maximizing the use of scarce moisture. Trade goods found throughout the site reveal extensive connections to distant regions, suggesting that the Humphrey site wasn't an isolated outpost but part of broader economic networks. Shells from both Pacific and Atlantic coasts, copper from the Great Lakes, and distinctive pottery styles from various southwestern cultures show that these sandhills residents participated in continent-wide exchange systems. The variety of these trade materials raises questions about what the Humphrey site inhabitants produced in exchange for such distant goods. The Sandhills region offered few obvious trade commodities, but the site's residents may have specialized in processing bison products, creating portable leather goods, or serving as intermediaries in trade networks crossing the plains. Seasonal patterns of occupation at the site suggest a complex annual cycle that took advantage of different resources throughout the year. Evidence indicates the heaviest occupation occurred during spring and summer months, when agricultural activities were most intensive. Autumn remains show evidence of harvest activities and food processing for winter storage. The site's defensive features provide clues about the challenges its inhabitants faced. Carefully positioned lookout points offered views across the surrounding landscape, while storage areas were concealed in ways that suggest the need to protect valuable resources from raids or theft. These defensive measures indicate that life in the sandhills, while sustainable, required constant vigilance. Tool assemblages from the site reveal technologies specifically adapted to sandhills conditions, specialized digging implements designed for sandy soils, unique hunting equipment suited to grassland game animals, and processing tools adapted for working with bison hides and other plains. Resources show remarkable innovation in tool design and manufacture. The mystery deepens when considering the site's abandonment sometime around 400 AD. Climate records suggest this period coincided with increasing drought conditions across the plains, but the specific factors that forced abandonment of such a well-adapted settlement remain unclear. The inhabitants appear to have left in an organized manner, removing portable valuables while leaving behind permanent installations. Environmental analysis of the site area reveals how human activities affected the local ecosystem. The inhabitants' agricultural practices may have contributed to soil stabilization in areas where they farmed intensively. Their hunting patterns appear to have focused on sustainable harvesting of local game populations rather than intensive exploitation that might have depleted resources. The Humphrey site challenges assumptions about the carrying capacity of marginal environments and demonstrates how human ingenuity can create sustainable communities in seemingly impossible locations. The archaeological evidence reveals not just survival strategies, but a sophisticated understanding of ecological relationships and resource management that allowed permanent settlement in one of the continent's most challenging grassland environments. Chapter 6. Stone Circles, Rings of Mystery. Scattered across Nebraska's landscape, mysterious circles of stone mark locations where ancient peoples once gathered for purposes that continue to puzzle archaeologists today. These stone rings, found in locations ranging from Ash Hollow to Indian Cave State Park to Medicine Creek, vary in size from intimate clusters a few feet across to massive formations spanning over 50 ft in diameter. While some clearly mark the foundations of ancient lodges, others serve unknown purposes that have sparked decades of debate and speculation. The most straightforward stone circles represent tipi rings, the weighted-down edges of portable dwellings used by nomadic plains groups. These smaller circles, typically 15 to 20 ft in diameter, show patterns of stone placement that match ethnographic descriptions of how lodge covers were secured against prairie winds. Hearth remains in their centers, and artifact distributions around their edges confirm their domestic function. However, many stone circles don't fit this simple explanation. Some lack central hearths or associated domestic debris, suggesting ceremonial rather than residential purposes. Others are positioned in locations that seem unsuitable for habitation, but offer exceptional views of astronomical phenomena or distant landmarks. These anomalous rings raise questions about their builders' intentions and the range of activities that may have occurred within their boundaries. The largest stone circles present the greatest mysteries. Some formations near Medicine Creek exceed 40 ft in diameter, far larger than any known dwelling type from the region. These massive rings required enormous labor investments to construct, with stones weighing several hundred pounds carefully positioned in precise geometric patterns. The effort required to create such formations suggests purposes beyond simple shelter or territorial marking. Astronomical alignments add another layer of mystery to many stone circle sites. Several rings show precise orientation toward cardinal directions or specific astronomical events, such as solstices and equinoxes. Some contain internal features that appear designed for astronomical observation, including carefully positioned marker stones that frame views of celestial events. These alignments suggest sophisticated knowledge of astronomy and its integration into important cultural activities. The stones themselves provide clues about the builder's selection criteria and construction methods. Many circles utilize local materials exclusively, but others incorporate stones transported from distant sources. The choice of specific stone types may have held symbolic significance, with different materials selected for their color, texture, or cultural associations. Some circles show evidence of careful stone preparation, including shaping and surface modification before placement. Construction techniques vary significantly between different stone circle sites, suggesting multiple cultural traditions or different functional requirements. Some rings show evidence of careful excavation and leveling before stone placement, while others appear to have been constructed directly on existing ground surfaces. These variations may reflect different time periods, cultural groups, or intended purposes. Dating stone circles present significant challenges due to the lack of organic materials directly associated with many formations. Artifacts found within or near the circles provide approximate dates, but these may not represent the actual construction period. Some circles may have been built centuries before or after the artifacts found nearby, complicating efforts to associate specific rings with known cultural groups. The distribution patterns of stone circles across Nebraska reveal interesting clustering around certain landscape features. Many circles are positioned on elevated terrain with commanding views of surrounding areas, while others cluster near water sources or natural travel routes. This distribution suggests the builders considered both practical and symbolic factors when selecting locations for circle construction. Preservation issues affect many stone circle sites, with agricultural activities, construction projects, and natural erosion threatening these ancient formations. Some circles have been partially destroyed or modified, making interpretation of their original form and function more difficult. However, careful documentation and protection of remaining sites continue to provide valuable information about their builders and purposes. Comparisons with stone circles from other regions reveal both similarities and unique features in Nebraska's examples. While the basic concept of stone ring construction appears across many cultures, specific details of design, size, and associated features show regional variations that may reflect local adaptations or cultural preferences. These comparisons help identify possible cultural connections and the spread of ideas across ancient North America. The mystery of Nebraska's stone circles remains largely unsolved, despite decades of archaeological investigation. Each new site provides additional clues while raising new questions about the people who invested enormous effort in creating these enduring monuments to unknown purposes. They stand as silent testimony to the complex ceremonial and practical lives of the plains' ancient inhabitants. Chapter 7. Bluff Ruins, Castles of Stone and Shadow. Along the North Platte River, towering sandstone formations rise from the prairie like the ruins of ancient castles. These natural sculptures, carved by millions of years of wind and water erosion, captivated early pioneers who saw in their weathered faces the remnants of a lost civilization. While geology explains their formation, the Bluff ruins continue to inspire wonder and speculation about the people who may have used these natural fortresses throughout prehistory. The formations themselves are products of the Oligocene epoch, created when ancient seas deposited layers of sand and sediment that later hardened into stone. Differential erosion carved these deposits into fantastic shapes, creating towers, arches, and cliff faces that bear uncanny resemblances to human architecture. Wind and water sculpted details that appear almost deliberately crafted, with regular spacing and proportional relationships that seem too organized to be purely natural. Pioneer accounts describe these formations with a mixture of awe and confusion. Travelers along the Oregon Trail wrote of seeing ruined cities and ancient castles rising from the plains, their imaginations fired by the formation's architectural appearance. Some observers reported seeing structures that appeared to have windows, doorways, and defensive walls, leading to persistent folklore about lost civilizations that once inhabited the region. Archaeological investigations have revealed that while the formations themselves are entirely natural, they were indeed used by ancient peoples as shelters, lookout points, and ceremonial sites. Protected alcoves within the rocks provided temporary shelter for travelers, while elevated platforms offered commanding views across the river valley. Evidence of human occupation includes fire hearths, stone tools, and occasional petroglyphs carved into the sandstone walls. The strategic value of these natural formations becomes clear when considering their positions in the landscape. Many bluff ruins occupy elevated positions that would have been ideal for monitoring river crossings, game movements, or the approach of other human groups. Their defensive potential was enhanced by the difficulty of approaching these positions from most directions, making them natural fortifications that required no human modification. Seasonal patterns of use suggest that different groups visited the bluff ruins at various times throughout the year. Some evidence points to their use as hunting camps during periods when bison herds crossed the river valley. Other occupation layers indicate longer-term stays, possibly by small groups seeking refuge during harsh weather or territorial conflicts. The variety of artifacts found suggest multiple cultural groups used these locations across extended periods. The formation's role in spiritual or ceremonial activities remains largely mysterious due to the difficulty of interpreting archaeological evidence for such practices. However, the dramatic appearance of the Bluff ruins and their prominent positions in the landscape suggest they may have held special significance for ancient peoples. Some formations contain features that could have been used for astronomical observations or ritualistic gatherings. Natural acoustics within certain formations add another dimension to their potential ceremonial use. Sound behaves unusually within the sandstone alcoves and chambers, creating echo effects and sound amplification that could have been utilized during gatherings or ceremonies. These acoustic properties may have contributed to the spiritual significance of particular formations for ancient inhabitants. The preservation of organic materials within the sheltered areas of the Bluff ruins has provided valuable information about ancient environments and human adaptations. Plant remains, animal bones, and other organic debris offer insights into past climates and the resources available to ancient peoples. This information helps reconstruct the ecological context in which these natural shelters were used. Weathering processes continue to modify the Bluff ruins, gradually erasing some features while creating new ones. This ongoing erosion affects both the formation's appearance and any archaeological evidence they may contain. Time-lapse photography and careful documentation efforts track these changes, providing insights into both geological processes and the urgency of archaeological investigation before evidence is lost. Modern visitors to the Bluff ruins often experience the same sense of wonder that inspired pioneer accounts of ancient cities. The formation's architectural appearance remains striking, and their positions in the landscape create dramatic vistas that emphasize their commanding presence. While science has explained their geological origins, their ability to inspire human imagination remains undiminished. The folklore surrounding the Bluff ruins reflects broader themes in American frontier mythology, where natural wonders were often interpreted through the lens of lost civilizations and ancient mysteries. These stories, while not historically accurate, capture something important about the human response to dramatic landscapes and the desire to find meaning in natural phenomena that exceed ordinary experience. Chapter 8. Cave Petroglyphs, Voices from the Stone. Deep within the limestone caverns of Indian Cave State Park, ancient artists left behind a gallery of mysterious images carved into the living rock. These petroglyphs, hidden in the darkness of underground chambers along the Missouri River, represent one of Nebraska's most enigmatic archaeological treasures. Created by unknown hands across unknown centuries, they speak in a visual language that modern observers struggle to understand. The cave system itself provided ideal conditions for both creating and preserving these ancient artworks. The limestone walls offered relatively soft surfaces that could be carved with stone tools, while the protected environment shielded the images from weather and erosion. The cave's multiple chambers and passages created distinct galleries where different artists worked, each space containing unique collections of symbols and figures. The petroglyphs themselves display remarkable variety in both style and subject matter. Some images clearly represent animals familiar to the region, including deer, birds, and what appear to be buffalo or other large mammals. Human figures appear throughout the cave, sometimes shown in isolation, other times depicted in complex group scenes that suggest narratives or ceremonial activities. Geometric patterns and abstract symbols add another layer of mystery, their meanings lost to time. Dating these ancient artworks presents significant challenges due to the absence of organic materials that could provide radiocarbon dates. Stylistic analysis suggests the images were created across an extended period, possibly spanning several centuries or even millennia. Some figures appear to overlay others, indicating multiple episodes of artistic activity within the same cave chambers. The tools and techniques used to create the petroglyphs reveal sophisticated artistic methods adapted to the cave environment. The artists used stone implements to peck and incise designs into the limestone surface, creating both deep relief carvings and subtle surface modifications. Different tools appear to have been used for different effects, suggesting specialized knowledge of stone carving techniques. The cave's role in ancient spiritual or ceremonial life remains largely mysterious, but is suggested by the time and effort invested in creating these hidden artworks. The difficulty of accessing the cave's interior chambers, combined with the permanence of rock art, suggests these images held special significance for their creators. The cave may have served as a sacred space where important cultural knowledge was recorded and preserved. Symbolic analysis of the petroglyphs reveals recurring motifs and patterns that may represent a coherent system of meaning. Certain geometric designs appear repeatedly throughout the cave, sometimes in association with specific animal or human figures. These patterns might represent spiritual concepts, astronomical observations, or other cultural information encoded in visual form by the ancient artists. The relationship between the cave petroglyphs and other rock art sites across the region provides clues about cultural connections and the spread of artistic traditions. Similar symbols and styles appear at sites hundreds of miles apart, suggesting either extensive cultural contact or shared symbolic systems among different groups. These connections help place the cave art within broader patterns of ancient communication and cultural exchange. Light sources used by the original artists add another dimension to understanding how these images were created. The deep cave chambers require artificial illumination for detailed work, meaning the artists brought torches, fires, or other light sources into the underground galleries. Evidence of ancient fires within the cave may represent the remains of lighting systems used during artistic sessions. The preservation challenges facing the cave petroglyphs highlight the fragility of these ancient artworks. Changes in humidity, temperature, and air circulation can cause limestone deterioration that threatens the images. Human visitors, while necessary for study and appreciation, also pose risks through inadvertent contact, breathing moisture, and other disturbances to the cave environment. Modern documentation efforts use advanced photography and digital scanning to create detailed records of the petroglyphs before further deterioration occurs. These techniques reveal details invisible to casual observation, including faint images, subtle tool marks, and evidence of how the artworks were created. Such documentation provides permanent records while minimizing physical impact on the fragile cave environment. The mystery of the cave petroglyphs extends beyond their creation to questions about their intended audience and purpose. Were these images meant to be seen by future generations, or did they serve immediate ceremonial functions that required no long-term preservation? The hidden location suggests privacy and secrecy, but the permanence of stone carving implies messages intended to endure across time. Contemporary efforts to understand the petroglyphs must balance scientific investigation with respect for the cultural significance these images may hold for descendant communities. The artworks represent more than archaeological artifacts, serving as connections to ancient peoples whose voices echo across centuries through their carefully crafted stone messages that continue to speak to those willing to listen in the darkness of the caves.